If you're a health and wellness brand and you want to scale faster, most people will tell you to spend more on ads. Frankly, over the last decade plus of doing this, they're wrong. The brands growing the fastest right now are not outspending their competition like most people would say. They are what we call out-levering them. And there's a ratio sitting inside your business right now that tells you exactly how to do it. Most founders have never looked at it directly, and I want to show you that today. Now, before we dive in, let me tell you about a king who had everything and still could not figure out why things kept going wrong. Most people know the story of Midas and the golden touch. Touch something, it turns to gold. Sounds like a growth strategy, right? More input, more output. Pour more in, get more back. But there's a part of the Midas myth that does not get talked about nearly enough. At one point, Midas was asked to judge a musical contest between two gods, Apollo on the lyre and Pan on the flute. Midas listened to both and picked Pan. Apollo was furious, and as a punishment, he gave Midas the ears of a donkey. Now, here's the part I want you to sit with. Midas did not address it. He did not look at it. He hid the ears under a giant purple turban, swore his barber to secrecy, and just kept going. He kept ruling, kept making decisions. His barber knew the truth, but could not say anything. The secrecy was so heavy. So one day, the barber went out to a field by a river, dug a hole in the ground, whispered the truth into the dirt, and buried it. Reeds grew over the spot, and every time the wind blew through those reeds, they whispered to everyone passing by, Midas has donkey ears. Midas has donkey ears. And the thing Midas refused to look at kept surfacing anyway. Now, today, like I mentioned, I'm going to talk to you about what separates brands that scale fast and stay healthy from the ones that scale fast and collapse on sand. And I'm going to show you how to create the kind of leverage that makes every dollar you spend on acquisition work significantly harder than it does right now. Here's a belief that almost every founder or operator that I speak to carries when they have momentum, but they want to accelerate it. We need to pour more fuel on what is already burning or working. And honestly, that instinct is not wrong. You have found something that works. Fantastic. Customers are coming in, revenue's moving. The natural next move feels obvious. Scale the spend, expand the channels, hire the team, go faster, go bigger. The problem in this case is not technically ambition. The problem is what gets missed when you move fast without first building leverage into your model. So here's what that looks like in practice when you don't build that leverage. You increase ad spend and revenue goes up, but margins start compressing. You expand into a new channel and it works, but not as well as the first one did. You scale the team and suddenly complexity is growing faster than efficiency and it slows you down. You're doing more of everything and the growth is real, but it's getting heavier. It is costing more to produce the same result than it did 6, 9, 12 months ago. And it's weighing on you that it's not performing like you hoped. This is not a failure. It's actually a very specific and very solvable problem. You are scaling inputs without first building leverage into your customer economics. And the fastest growing brands in the health and wellness are not the ones spending the most. They're the ones who figured out how to make each customer relationship worth more before they put their foot on the gas. So let me introduce you to the ratio that sits underneath all of it. Lifetime value to customer acquisition costs, or LTV to CAC. LTV is the lifetime value of a customer, the total revenue one customer generates across their entire relationship with your brand. CAC is your customer acquisition costs, what you spend on average to bring one new customer in. The ratio of those two numbers is your leverage score. It tells you how much value you are creating relative to what you are spending to create it. In most terms, in a general sense, a 3-to-1 ratio is generally considered healthy and scalable. For every dollar you spend acquiring a customer, they return $3 over their lifetime, or in many cases, we measure in a 12-month window. But here's what most scaling brands do not think about. If you can move that ratio to 3-to-1 or even 4-to-1 before you aggressively scale spend, the economics of everything downstream change dramatically. Your pay channels become more profitable. Your payback period shortens. You can outbid competitors for the same customer and still come out ahead. You can absorb the inefficiencies that come with scaling without threatening the model. That is what we call leverage, and it comes from understanding and deliberately pulling 3 levers. Lever 1 is getting more new customers. This is a lever everyone is already pulling and they're already focused on, and at scale it matters enormously. More volume means better data, better audiences, better creative signal, but this lever does not create leverage on its own. It amplifies whatever is already in the model. If the unit or customer economics are strong, more acquisition accelerates everything. If they are not, more acquisition just scales the gap and the problems. Lever number 2 is getting customers to spend more per transaction. Higher average order value means more revenue per customer without any additional acquisition cost. So every dollar of AOV improvement drops directly into LTV, or as we call it, your margin. Bundles, subscriptions, upgraded offers, removing friction from larger purchases. For a scaling brand, this lever is often the fastest way to meaningfully move the ratio because you do not have to wait for repeat purchases to accumulate. You improve the economics of the very first transaction. Lever number 3 is getting customers to buy more often. This is the compounding lever, not just in revenue, but in the stability and predictability they give your model. Repeat purchase rate is the engine underneath or behind LTV. When you are scaling, having a strong repeat rate means your growth is not entirely dependent on paid acquisition, continuing to get more new customers over and over and over again. You have a base that sustains itself. The brands that scale fastest and stay healthy are pulling all three levers simultaneously and doing it deliberately, not as a reaction to a problem, but as a proactive strategy built into how they grow and how they view scale. So if these three levers are the method, the question becomes then, who do you aim these levers at? And this is where everything connects. This is the through line through your marketing and your growth. Your star customer. Your star customer is not your average customer. They are the person who found your brand, connected with it deeply, bought more than once, told someone else about it, and kept coming back for more. And here's what most brands get wrong about who that actually is. Everyone chases the lowest CAC and the highest LTV as if those two numbers are the whole story. They're not. Your star customer is not defined by where CAC lands or ends up or how cheap or expensive it is. They're defined by the margin. The customer who costs a little more to acquire but buys consistently, never haggles, rarely returns anything, and pulls others through your brand with them, that person is worth more to your business than a cheap acquisition who buys once and disappears forever. Best margin, full stop. That is the goal. That is the profile you build around. That is the customer you pour fuel on when you scale. Every scaling brand has star customers. Very few have identified them clearly enough to build around them intentionally though. So here is why this is your leverage point. When you know exactly who your star customer is, your creative speaks to a real specific person instead of a demographic, and it converts better. Your targeting has a clear model to match against, and your paid channels become more efficient. Your retention strategy is built around what actually keeps your best customers engaged instead of what you assume keeps average customers around. Your product roadmap is shaped by what your highest value customers want next instead of what seems logical on a spreadsheet. And some of you may be wondering, and this question I get all the time, and it's okay, if we focus solely on this star customer, what happens to those who are not an exact match to this profile? It's very simple, and it's called the halo effect. Those who are maybe a 6 out of 10 or even a 5 out of 10 will still buy from you for two reasons. One, they aspire to be your star customer. They aspire to be a 10 out of 10 based on your scale and your profile. Or two, the problem and pain you're helping them move away from is solved with your product, and that's enough to get them off the fence and into checkout. It's that simple. It's not more complicated than that. Every one of those improvements in LTV to CAC move the ratio. LTV goes up, CAC comes down, and suddenly you have leverage you can actually pour fuel on. In some cases, your CAC goes up and your LTV goes up, but your margin widens, which means you create more margin even though you do spend more per customer than you did before. Here's what I hope you take away from this. Scaling fast is not about finding more budget or a better media buyer or even expanding to a new platform. It's about building leverage into the customer relationship first, then scaling that. Because when the economics are strong, growth compounds. When they are not strong, growth gets expensive and slowly, if not quickly, kills your brand. The star customer is the foundation, LTV to CAC is the scorecard and the golden ratio, and the three levers are the tools. And leverage is what you get when all three are working for you. That is how you scale faster without scaling your problems. Midas had the golden touch, but still had something hiding under his big purple turban. Success now does not necessarily mean the ratio is optimized. It just means you have not felt the consequences yet because you haven't gotten to a place where it is causing issues. The brands that scale fastest are not the ones who got lucky with an audience or found a creative that printed for 18 months. They are the ones who understood their customer economics clearly enough to build leverage into the model before they hit the accelerator. Or if you're already scaling, adjusted their sites in the process to get the most out of what they've already done and continuing to go where they want to go. If you're a health and wellness brand with real momentum and you want to scale faster without growth getting heavier and more expensive every single quarter, let's look at your ratio together. Find a link below in the description and book a call. You'll also find our growth analysis tool that we use with every brand down there, so you can take a look at that yourself too. On the call, we will look at where your LTV to CAC actually stands, which of the three levers will move the ratio the fastest with your specific brand, products, and customer, and where your star customer can be sharpened to make every channel you're already running more efficient. We will find the leverage and we'll build the plan to use it. Again, the link's down below to book a call. Talk soon.